Welcome to Engaging Cities Fireside Chats. On each episode of the show, I talk to leaders who are paving the way in civic engagement in order to inspire listeners and share strategies that you can implement in your own community. This podcast is proudly supported by our sponsor, Conveo, the engagement platform for plans and policies. Check them out at konveo.com. I'm your host, Kelly Hickler, the Community Manager with Engaging Cities, as well as the founder of Cinovation Studio, which is dedicated to innovative civic education and engagement. On today's episode, I'm chatting with my good friend, Stu Meek, who is the local business manager for the city of Commerce City in Colorado. Stu manages Elevate Commerce, which is a business retention and expansion program focused on building relationships with local businesses. So in this episode, rather than talking about engagement with the general community, we are focused on engagement with the local business community. We talk a lot about the importance of the city's role in building lasting relationships with local businesses. We learn what a business blitz is, and it turns out it is not related to Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones, much to my dismay. Although I still included a link to the song in the description because it's a good song, so give it a listen. We also learn what a smart website is, discuss proactive engagement strategies, and how to manage challenges like low survey responses. All right, are you guys ready? Let's go. Stu, before you introduce yourself, can we talk for a minute about the name of your city?
Sure. What do you want to talk about?
I looked it up beforehand just to make sure that I had it right. Like, is it Commerce City or is it the City of Commerce City? And officially, it is the City of Commerce City.
That is correct. It is the city of Commerce City. And I think it's at one point it was Commerce Town. So there's a whole history there that I should know more about, but don't.
Okay, maybe that'd be a separate episode. We'll talk about.
Give me some time to do some research, and then I'll do a history presentation for you on the city of Commerce City.
Perfect. So I did see that your current city manager is Jason Rogers, who I know from when I was a planning commissioner for the town of Parker, Colorado, and Jason was the deputy community development director. So now that he has gone over to the city of Commerce City, and he is the city manager, I want to petition him to change the name of the city that he manages. And my petition is to name it the town of Commerce City.
My sense is that he'll love it, but I'm not sure that he wields that power.
I mean, it has a nice ring to it. And now that you said it used to be Commerce Town.
Yeah.
Town of Commerce Town. There's so many options.
Yeah. I think you could just say Commerce City. Well,
okay. Yeah. Is it okay if I just call it Commerce City? It's their outer interview.
I think that will.
Otherwise, it's too many cities. Okay. So anyway, Stu, tell our listeners about yourself. What is your background and what makes you so awesome?
Oh, I don't know. Very awesome, but it makes something else work if you'd like. So as you said, I'm a local business manager now for City of Commerce City. So hey, I just did it. Working on the economic development team with the city. My background is in economic development, local government management. So I also had worked in the city manager's office in the past. Some nonprofit management. So I used to work for City Year Cleveland. So some folks might be familiar with City Year. So spent some wonderful time with them as well. And then also some entrepreneurship too. So I'm kind of a little bit all over the place there in terms of interest.
Yeah, I love it. You're very much like me. Done a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But that is what makes you so awesome.
Oh, there you go. Hey, you answered it for me. Appreciate it.
Okay. So before we get into talking about your project, I wanted to preface the conversation by saying that engaging cities is not limited to just talking about community engagement that's related to things coming out of the planning department. We're interested in all types of community engagement that a local government agency is doing. And I would say most economic development departments are doing a ton of community engagement. It just looks a little bit different than the kind that the planning department would be doing. That would be associated with like a comp plan update or a corridor study or neighborhood plan, something like that. So you're doing a ton of engagement with your business community, and that's a huge segment of any town or city population. And that's an important segment of the community to engage with. So anyway, I'll stop blabbering on because we want to hear from you. But I just want to preface the conversation for our listeners who might be wondering, wait, why are we talking about economic development? I thought we were talking about city planning engagement. So you are here to talk about Elevate Commerce, which is a business retention and expansion program focused on building relationships with local businesses. Did I get that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Uh,
And I appreciate you sharing that context. I think you're absolutely right. I think that uh, at the core of at least business retention expansion is developing relationships with local businesses, which is the owners that live in the community, work in the community, uh, and other members of the businesses. Um, so I think it, I agree 100% that it's just a different way of looking at the same type of thing. It just has different intents or different goals.
uh,
But I think I have a background in broader, more planning, more traditional kind of community engagement as well as I think there's a lot of overlap in terms of how you approach it, what you've learned, how you establish relationships, all those types of things interact well. So uh, for Elevate Commerce, as you mentioned, it's a new program with the City of Commerce Cities. So apparently I'm used to saying City of Commerce City. So I'll just keep doing
uh,
that. So it is a business retention expansion program. The goal is to help the local economy to thrive and grow, and have that be led by local businesses that are existing already in the community. So what that means at its core practice is that it's building relationships with the local businesses and problem solving. So, the problem solving piece could be connecting businesses with resources that are available at the state level, regional level, or even locally, um, based off of whatever their needs are, whatever they're up against. It could also just be helping on a code enforcement issue or being a mediator with on some other problem that's coming up for them. It could be, I need somebody to please plow this road. It's just all over the place in terms
mhm,
of what businesses are experiencing. It could be, working in the workforce space and making connections there to help them find the talent that they need. Um, Conversations and relationships with the businesses go in a million different directions and require a lot of different um, approaches to success. But there are some things um, that are somewhat unique, I think, to Elevate Commerce. Um, the first I'll say is the strategy is very much built around a core focus of adding business value. So it is not sit down with the business one time a year or one time every couple of years and try to touch. It is very much an engaged relationship where we're interacting um, 20 times over the course of the year. on various topics and various needs. So if we're not adding business value, we're doing it wrong. And we can't do that without having a relationship and without understanding what needs really are, and just having enough trust that businesses will be that the business leaders will feel comfortable sharing those things. And that trust is only built through adding that value and saying doing what you say you're going to do and following
Mm.
through, connecting, connecting businesses to the resources they need, or um, showing empathy for any challenges that are happening, and just helping to work through those things. So I've seen a lot of business retention and expansion programs that, or I guess I should just say that you, some people might have in their head that a business retention and expansion program is an annual visit kind of thing, and this is much more purposeful and engaged than that kind of setup. The other piece is the creating the future piece that we will talk about in a minute. That I personally get really excited about. That's intended to solve more bigger or more regional things that come up across conversations with multiple businesses. So that's something else that's on my mind. But in general, we took about 6 months to put this all together. We built out the strategy, all the that core focus that I talked about, our mission, our principles, how we were going to add value. We built a smart website for it as well. So if you go to elevatec3gov.com, you'll see that there's a short intake form, and then that connects businesses directly with resources that are relevant to them. So, which is great for the economic developer, because we don't have to rely on the conversation to go in a certain way to meet a need. We can say, here's the full list that's relevant to you. If it didn't come up in conversation, you still have it at your fingertips. So I think that's a cool piece of art about it. We built a brand around it, Elevate Commerce. We have an initial outreach plan, included a business blitz, the website, a survey, some initial business visits, and we have a video as well. Really tried to push all that into a short period of time so that we could build momentum and awareness, and hopefully just build uh, some organic growth and awareness of what we were doing.
Cool. Okay. Heard you say business blitz, and I need to know more about that. And is that related to a Blitzkrieg Bop?
Are you gonna tell me what a Blitzkrieg Bop is first?
That is a hit song from the 1970s punk rock group, the Ramones.
Oh,
If you heard it, you would know it. And maybe I could sing it for you, or maybe I'll just insert it into the podcast later.
we'll just play it over. Like, especially if like if one of us sounds a little boring for some reason, like just play it in the background.
Yeah, I'll just drown it out with some Ramones.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a connection there, but I don't think so. So um there is something in economic development called swaps, and that's kind of where the idea came from. So particularly if you have a walkable kind of downtown and you're building a retention expansion strategy for a specific area, you might take an afternoon and just walk business to business, and kind of have an initial touch point, share what you're doing,
So,
help be a kickoff connection. We wanted to take that idea and spread it across the city, and also figure out how we can engage our resource partners as well. So we uh, contacted 100 businesses in 1 week, and we worked with seven of our service partners. So think like the small business development centers, or the chambers, or workforce centers of the county, that sort of thing. And we all split up the list, and each of us reached out to a portion of that list. And that's how we got to 100. So so it came from the business walks idea, but the blitz portion is we just wanted to get this. We wanted to have as many interaction as possible in a short period of time around this topic to layer on top of the additional things we were doing to get the word out about commerce.
Okay, cool. So you had the business blitz, you had the smart website. You talked a little bit about the website. What makes it smart? What is
I,
a
th-
smart website?
I think to me, what makes it smart is that you are being connected to the resources that are most relevant to you. So we could put so we have 75, I think, different things that are in the database. We could build a website and put all 75 out there, but nobody's going to uh, go well. Very few people are going to spend the time to go through all of those to figure out what's relevant. So it has an interactive intake form that funnels that set of resources to what's most useful to them. So I think that's the smartest aspect of it. The other aspect is that on the backside, we get access to that information. So we get a sense of, who's active in the community, what issues they might be facing based off of how they've responded to questions. We also have a survey that's on, the link is on the website too. So we're kind of using all of that information to prepare us better for um, the actual interactions with the business, so that we're not going in there just blind saying, "Hey, tell us what's going on." We already have information about their business and what's going on, and we could even invite some of our service partners or resource partners um, to the initial visit rather than follow up visits, if you will. So
Okay, cool.
um, I think that's the biggest thing. I should mention that it's powered by Quali. So it was a smart cities project to the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance. So is a pilot project with Quali, and um, looking to continue that in future years. And it's Quali is QWALLY if anybody's interested.
Okay, I was just gonna ask, how do you spell that? So thank you. And we can like add it to the bottom of the screen. Sponsored by Quali, maybe.
Powered by Quali.
Powered by.
Yeah.
Um, so as you're talking about this, it sounds like there might be some overlaps between the efforts that you're doing and maybe some things that the planning department could be working on as far as zoning code updates or some of their outreach efforts, or I don't know. Do you communicate with planning department or other departments in the city and collaborate, kind of join forces on any of these things, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we work very closely with other departments in the city, including community development, building as well. Another aspect of my job as local business manager is to um, to be a business liaison on development projects that happen throughout the city. So that plugged into this as well, and they all, you know, churn together, if you will. Um, I would add, though, that one is that the program is still pretty new, and I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity coming down the road. The collaboration specifically with community development. I think the creating the future piece is probably the biggest opportunity. So the idea there, I mentioned briefly earlier, but I'll dive in a little bit more, is that uh, when you're interacting with businesses, you realize that there are topics that come up pretty regularly across all businesses. Um, thinking of workforce is an easy one, that there's whole sets of programming already built around trying to meet those needs for businesses. Um, the idea for creating the future is to, through the knowledge that we gain from the business visits, surveys, any other interactions, to select a big problem or big topic once or twice a year, and then build a task force around solution topic. And then that task force and that the process for the task force will look different depending on what the topic is. Who's involved is obviously depend on that as well. Um, that will very likely policy um, implications. I think having community development involved in that aspect of the programming will be very valuable, as well as obviously our members of city council, leaders within the city in general. Obviously, the businesses themselves and leaders within the business community, service partners, depending on what the topic is. Um, I'm particularly excited about Creating the Future because I think that it has the um, greatest potential to have the broadest impact for retention and expansion in Commerce City. So looking forward to really kicking that off and getting that going. But we at this point, that's an idea. It's one of our goals in the strategy box.
Okay, cool. That sounds really interesting. So maybe once that's underway, you can visit us again and give us an update.
Absolutely, sounds good. We can live stream some of it or something if you want.
Yeah. I'm into it.
You can hang out there with your fire.
Yeah.
Just randomly. You can help us facilitate, ask questions, make sure we're having fun. We'll probably need some of that.
I bring the fun
Exactly.
and the fire.
What else is needed, really?
Wow. Okay. So, of all the things that you've done so far with Elevate Commerce, what do you think has gone particularly well?
I think what has particularly well is the reaction gotten from the businesses that we've already established a relationship with. Um, we have gotten overwhelming positive response from them that they have shared with other organizations and with our city council already themselves. I mean, without any prompting on our part. And that is both very satisfying. That feels great to know that they're having action, they're getting it, and then they're becoming um, someone that can help spread the word about what we're trying to do and what value we can bring, and that we are meeting that main goal of adding business value. Um, but the other piece for me is just a reminder that uh, community engagement is not how many surveys you responded to or you have, or how many people showed up to your event, at least in my mind. It
Mhm.
is how many relationships were established, how much and how robust was the informational kind of interaction that happened um, as part of the process. So just it's for me, it's just a reminder that uh, the the real valuable stuff is built on relationships, and relationships are one on you know. So I think that was just a great reminder for me in what we're doing. We of course all always have the goals in our head of um, amount of outreach or uh, the big ideas about how we're going to move or uh, spur growth in the economy on a macro level. But none of that happens without the micro level things going right and those
Mm.
relationships being effective.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder. I think with some community engagement efforts, we can get hung up on, like you said, the number of survey responses or the number of people who attended a meeting or metrics like that, that maybe look impressive in a report, but they don't always correlate with effective results or meaningful results. So that relationship building is so important. And I was talking to someone about this the other day, how a lot of community engagement efforts are reactionary, they're short term, they're in reaction to a specific project. And they only last for the length of that project, and it's very transactional. We need this from you. We need your input on this survey. And then when it's done, there's no relationship anymore. It's okay, thanks, bye. Let's see you next year when we need something else from you. And this shift that you're talking about towards more proactive engagement, it's not related to a specific plan. It's more general in nature and it's more relationship based. It's not I need something from you. It's, hey, let's get to know each other. Let's see what issues in general are you having and how can we help you? And it's really more about establishing those long term relationships. And that's a much more healthy way of approaching how we engage with our community members. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that you started to touch on some of the snowball effect that can happen when you have those deeper relationships with folks in the community. One of the things we're thinking about is having an ambassador program at the city where we would have a group of business leaders that would help us on traction efforts as well. And identifying, you know, if you reverse it and you say, we're going to build an ambassador program, let's go identify who those ambassadors are.
Mhm.
Um, it takes time and you might not get to the right group of people. If you've built and established relationships with business leaders in the community and you've spent time doing that already, you already have that group in place. You just have to identify who's best and who's most interested to meet that kind of outcome. And there's all kinds of examples of that. If you have those relationships already established, um, you are you already have a group of folks that you can interact with on any of the
Mm.
things that are the community forward. And
Yeah.
and it's going to be more meaningful too, because they are more engaged. They're going to give you better feedback as well, better ideas, and more open ideas because trust has been built and established already. So I think it'd be interesting to think about how that could work, um, on other projects for sure.
Yeah, I was just taking notes about that because I really like that idea of kind of reverse engineering the ambassador program or backing into it. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. So, I'm curious if there are any of our listeners who have done something like that where they've approached, um, a more traditional planning effort in that way. I'm so curious to know. So if anyone's listening who's done that, let me know. I want to talk to you.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
if I could, I think I have seen a little bit of a growth in more neighborhood focused programs.
Mm,
And so the, in- the initial outreach might be somewhat transactional in that you're focused on learning more about what's happening in a specific neighborhood and what the needs are in a specific neighborhood. But I think those types of interactions um, have better opportunity of building relationships that can
mhm.
then be leveraged in a positive way for a comp plan or
Yeah.
for some broader type of thing down the road. You know, I think a lot of times those like comp plan sort of outreaches, you think of okay, well, who are the leaders in the community already, or who are the organizations in the community that are um, already organized that we could be interacting with. And
Yeah.
if you have to, if you have to ask that question, you're sort of already behind. You should
Mhm.
already know and have relationships built with those folks, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think I'm going to put that. call that out as the quote, like, on our website when we share the quote to pull the interview. That if you
That's
have
good.
to ask who those people are, you're already behind.
Yep.
All right. So we talked about all the things that have gone well and worked out for you. Is there anything that didn't go quite how you expected?
Yeah. I mean, a survey response is one thing. Our responses so far have been abysmal. And I I think that we have understood that our city is one where it's very challenging to get survey response. That's just been the history. So it's something that we're working off of. I mean, working within that foundation, that awareness. I think that there are contributing factors that we've done a lot of surveys recently. We have a lot of different programs and strategies are being built simultaneously. So I think there's a little bit of fatigue there.
Mm.
We also did a lot at once in terms of our communication. So we were launching Elevate Commerce alongside trying to describe what our website was and what it did, uh, and alongside trying to drive survey responses. I think uh, something just got lost, in that message. I think it's because we're using the surveys in a different way. The intention isn't to uh, look at the entire business community in the city and identify the top thing that they care about most or whatever. It's
Mhm.
more about trying to understand what's going on with each individual business and help give us some information before we have those interactions with the businesses, before we do business visits, and just to be a kickoff for a business visit too. If we get a survey response, it looks like we have resources we can offer that will be helpful, then that's a business that we're interacting with. So in terms of the broader program, I don't think this is something that is anywhere near a fatal flaw for us or something we should be concerned. But it's definitely something I wasn't expecting. I thought we would get more interest and uptake on it. On the flip side, though, I think the businesses we have interacted with um, have, as I mentioned earlier, have been champions for what we're doing,
Mm.
and matters to me, so much more, and then you know how many people, as I mentioned earlier, how many businesses are responding to the survey.
Right. Yeah. The survey is just one tool in the toolbox.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any other kind of lessons learned or words of advice that you would share with our listeners who might be undertaking something similar?
So the one thing I would tie into what I just said is don't do too much at once. So I think in terms of communication, particularly, I think our goal was, as I said before, to try to have as much uh, information around the program come out in as shortest amount of time possible, just to um, hopefully catch some organic growth from that outreach.
Mhm.
But I think our messaging uh, perhaps could have been more targeted or more phased, if you will. So maybe we still had that initial launch where there was a lot of energy around one point in time, but perhaps we kept it more to just here's Elevate Commerce and this is what we're trying to do, rather than trying to drive survey responses or website traffic at the same time. Maybe that could have been a little bit more phased, and we thought about that a little bit differently. So uh, I think being mindful of how much you're trying to communicate, and if the audience is able to, uh, absorb that information.
Mhm.
I think the other thing is just uh, it kind of built for that a little bit is to play the long game. The numbers in the relationships that were looking for um, overall, like for example, going back to the earlier conversation, you might have community leaders say, we want to have 300 really good relationships with business leaders in our community. That's our goal. So how many surveys were to be, for example,
Mhm.
that you're not going to get to that 300 in 1 year, even, you
Mhm.
have to like those relationships are built over time, one on one, if you're doing it in a way that is meaningful. I could certainly meet with 300 businesses a year and check that box and move along. But that's not what we're after. We're after creating business value and helping our businesses thrive in Commerce City. So um, we're taking the time to really build relationships, and it does take time to do that. But like anything else that compounds over time, you will get to that point where you do have a relationship built with 300 business leaders or more in your community, and you
Right.
can go on all of those. So I think just, being patient and playing the long game is important when you're talking about, engagement, and maybe to the earlier conversation, uh, thinking about community engagement as less transactional will help us get to that place too, playing a longer game.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and then just continuing to focus on the desired outcomes, focusing on the main reason you're doing the things, and there's a reason you spend time on purpose and you spend time on your ultimate goals. It's because that's what matters most. So you need to be constantly reminding yourself of that, course correcting and trying to get back to that, and just making sure that you're meeting the desired intent of the program. And if you're not, you're changing it and you're figuring out how to get.
Right. Okay. I don't know if you're comfortable speaking to this or not, but it sounds like your elected officials are understanding and on board with that approach, or they understand, hey, I'm not trying to just get 300 responses in the first year. I want to play the long game and build these relationships over time. Are your elected officials understanding and on board with that approach?
Yes. And I think we, over time, will have, additional conversations with our elected officials, and um, as we report on the programming, we'll talk more and more about that. So it just becomes a part of everyone's awareness. But um, in our strategy so the business retention the business retention expansion strategy that we built that became Elevate Commerce as a program, we were very particular about that up front. Um, if you look at it, you'll see like towards the end, I think there's a commitment section, and that was intentional. It was we're we can't establish a meaningful relationship with businesses if we're not willing to approach it that way.
Mhm.
Um, that's one. If we're not willing to solve or help to solve the problems that come up, then it's a wasted effort. So you have to have a commitment that you're willing to look at policy different, or you're willing to take seriously the feedback that you've received. Um, Willing to think about bigger problems that might be happening among that community.
Mhm.
Uh, so we identified those things up front, and we put them in the strategy right away. So everybody, including elected officials, the leadership of the city, could all see it and say, yes, we commit to that. We understand what the intent of this is and what the approach is to be.
Lovely. Love that. All right, Stu, where can people follow you in a non-creepy way? And where can they
You
reach
do it
out
creepily
if
too, I suppose. I don't know.
yeah. But where can they get in touch with you if they wanna ask some more questions?
On LinkedIn. I feel free to reach out there. Also, you can visit elevate.c3gov.com. That'll be a 2-for-1. You can check out the website, but there's also an about page, and you can contact me through that too.
Okay, cool. Well, Stu, thank you so much for being a guest on Fireside Chats.
Thanks, Kelly. I had a lot of fun. Really appreciate it.
All right, as always, thank you listeners for tuning in, and thanks again to our generous sponsor, Conveo. Head on over to engagingcities.org where you can find additional episodes and other helpful resources related to community engagement. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.